In this lesson, we're going to work on converting the shopping cart PSD to HTML and CSS. So let's open up the shopping cart PSD into Photoshop. I've already got mine opened up here in advance. Just going to zoom in a bit so we can see the design better. Now for this design, we're just going to ignore the breadcrumbs at the top as we've done previously. Then we'll just need to create a form and a table to display the items in the cart. Now the actual Laravel application that this design will be used in won't be accepting coupons, so we'll be ignoring the coupon area. And also in the Laravel app, it'll require a user to be signed in before being able to place an order, and this will ensure that the user can always view their order history. So this shopping cart page will also act as our checkout page. And for now, the form doesn't have to actually be functional. We just need it to look the part, and we'll make it work in the upcoming Laravel eCommerce course. So instead of our submit button here being proceed to checkout, it's going to say checkout with PayPal. Then PayPal will handle taking the customer's billing and payment information. I'm also going to put the continue shopping button next to the proceed to checkout button. And now lastly, make sure to export out the little refresh icon here. I named it refresh.gif. And you'll also want the remove icon over here, which I named as remove.gif. And for both of those icons, I saved the GIFs with a white mat. So let's get started with the HTML, and we should be able to reuse some of our existing code to save ourselves a little bit of time. Let's switch into our text editor, and let's open up the new account.html page. We'll use this as our template. Let's copy all of the code in here. We'll close it out. And we'll create a new file. Let's paste in our code, and let's save this as shoppingcart.html. Let's scroll up to the top of the page, and I'm going to change the title. This will say shopping cart and checkout. And let's scroll down to our main content section. And let's change this div for the new account. We'll change the ID to say shopping cart. And let's also change the H1 heading. This should say shopping cart and checkout. And then let's delete all of the form fields out of the form, but we'll keep the actual form tag itself. And we'll also keep the submit button. So let's delete all of that out of there. Let's now change the value of the button to say checkout with PayPal. And of course, in the actual Laravel application, we'll use a real PayPal button instead. But this will do for now. Now, above our submit button, let's create the continue shopping link. Let's go back into our text editor. Let's create a link, and this will have the tertiary btn class. This will just submit to a hash sign for now. And the link text will say continue shopping. Now inside of our form, let's create a table that we can use to display the cart. And we can actually reuse the HTML from our order details page. So let's open up orderdetails.html, and let's scroll down to the order details div. Here it is. And here's the table. So let's copy the entire table, and we can close this file out, and let's paste it inside of our form right at the top. Now I'm just going to fix up the indentation a bit. Now I'll scroll down, and after the total price span tag, I'm going to put a BR tag here, and this will be used to separate the total price from our buttons. So let's cut our buttons out, and we'll paste these into this last TR inside of the TD tag right after the total price. So I'm just going to indent this a bit, and that should be good. Let's scroll up now and look at our headings. So we have the number, the product name, unit price, quantity, and subtotal. If we look at our design, you can see that's exactly what we needed here. You can see the headings are already in there. And if we look at the actual products in the cart, you can see that we have these filled out properly as well. And we have the subtotal and the total price. So we pretty much have the cart built. The next thing we'll want to do is display a small image of the product in the product name row. So let's go into our text editor, and right before the product's name inside of this TD tag. Let's create an image tag. We'll set the source to image/main_product.png. We'll set the alt text to be product, and then we want it to be a small image. So let's set the width to 65, and we'll set the height to 37. And then we'll just put a space between the image and the product name. And we can duplicate this whole TD tag, and we can use it for the second product down here. Next, if we look at the design, we now need to work on the quantity row or the quantity column so that we can have this input field to change the quantity and display our little refresh icon as a link. Let's go back into our text editor, and inside of the quantity row or column, let's just get rid of this 1, and let's create our input field. So we'll set this to a type of text. We'll give it a value of 1. We'll set the max length to 2, and we'll give it a class of quantity so that we can style it separately from our input button at the bottom. And that's it for the quantity input field. Now I'm just going to put a space, and now we need a link to wrap that around our refresh icon. So let's create a link. This will just submit to a hash. We'll close the link. And now let's create the image. So we'll set the source to image/refresh.gif. We'll set the alt text to be refresh cart. And that's it for the quantity. We can now just copy this TD tag, and let's duplicate it down here for the second product. Let's change the quantity value to be 2. And now next, if we look at the design, we need to add our little remove icon here for the subtotal row. Let's go back into our text editor, and here's the subtotal. Let's just break this down onto a new line, and after the price, we'll put a space. We'll create a link. This will just link to a hash symbol. We'll close the link. Then we'll create our image. We'll set the source to the remove.gif file, and we'll set the alt text to remove product. And that's it. Let's copy this TD tag, and we can use it down here for the second product. There we go. And let's update the subtotal back to 800 since we have 2 products in this one. And that should do it for the HTML. Let's switch into the browser and take a look. We'll go to localhost, eCommerce PSD to HTML, and this is the shoppingcart.html page. All right, it looks okay. Now we just need to add in our styling. So the first thing that I notice is that the styling for the tertiary button is a little too big. It's bigger than our checkout button. So let's switch back into our text editor, and let's open up main.css, and let's scroll down to our button styles. And here's the tertiary buttons padding. So I'm just going to change this to be 10 pixels all around, and that should make it about the same size as our checkout button. So we've fixed one problem, but then we end up with another problem. So because of the tertiary button's alignment with our checkout button beside of it, our button inside of Internet Explorer 7 and 8 sits up about 10 pixels too high. So we need to target IE browsers that are less than Internet Explorer 9. And luckily, the HTML5 boilerplate that we're using gives us a class to do that. So right after our IE7 padding fix, let's put another comment here. This will be an IE7 and 8 tertiary button fix. And we can use the LT-IE9 to target Internet Explorer browsers that are less than IE9. And then we can target our tertiary BTN class, and we'll just set its position to relative, and then we can position the top 10 pixels down, and that'll fix the problem. So let's go into the browser and take a look at the size of our button. Let's refresh. There we go. That looks much better. Let's switch back into our text editor, and let's scroll up to our order details styling, and we can reuse some of that styling for our shopping cart table. And here we are. So inside of our comment, let's add in the shopping cart section. And let's start by adding our shopping cart to the H1 tag here. So we can target our shopping cart ID and its H1 tag. And we also want to have the font size, so let's put it in here, shopping cart H1. Then let's scroll down here to the table styles, and this will style the table for us, so we can target our shopping cart and its table tag. And now I know that the width of 870 pixels is going to be too short for our table, as we want it to take up most of the main content's width. So I'm going to override that width. Let's target our shopping cart ID and our table, and let's set the width. We'll put this to 1080 pixels. Then we just need to add our shopping cart to the TH tags. So shopping cart TH, and let's also add it to the TD tags. So shopping cart TD. Let's save the file and let's take a look in the browser. We'll refresh the page and there we go. That looks pretty good. We didn't have to write much CSS at all. We inherited most of this styling. The next thing that we want to do is to make our quantity input fields much shorter. If you look at the design, you can see that they're not very big here. Let's go back into our text editor. And after our TD styling, let's target our shopping cart ID and then our quantity class. Let's give these a border of 1 pixel. It'll be solid, and we'll use a light gray color of AAA. Let's give it a little bit of padding. We'll set 5 pixels on the top and bottom and 10 pixels for the left and right. Let's also round the corners, so we'll use border radius. We'll set that to 5 pixels. And then we can duplicate this for the Moz border radius and the WebKit border radius. And then lastly, let's set its width to 20 pixels. Let's switch back into the browser and we'll refresh. There we go. That looks good. And now the last CSS change that I want to make is I'm going to set the display of our span tag inside of our shopping cart to be block so that it separates our total from our buttons. Let's go back into our text editor and let's target our shopping cart ID. And then we want to target the span inside of TD tags. And we'll just set its display to block. Let's switch into the browser and we'll refresh. And here's the final result. It looks pretty good. So that wraps up the entire converting an eCommerce PSD to HTML and CSS course. I hope you've enjoyed watching the entire process of how I would go about breaking a PSD down into sections of HTML and then applying the CSS to style the pages accordingly. If you run into any problems or have any questions, feel free to ask away and I'll help as best as I can. So I thank you for taking the time to watch, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.